Okay, hello everyone, welcome back. I'm just waiting for my viewer to upload so that I know that everything is going okay with the stream settings, because sometimes something goes wrong and I hear myself feedbacking, which is not what I want. Okay, so my viewer has actually updated, which means that I can probably start. Is my audio okay? Yeah, that should be okay. Cool. Hello everyone, welcome back with a new video. I'm Jamie, this is the Film Empire livestream, and today I will be going through the project file of my latest short film, Intercept, which was released yesterday. If you haven't seen it, go check it out, because, this video will contain spoilers, because I'll be going through the entire project file, see how it is built up, and that kind of stuff. And I have Brick Filmer's effects guide here saying hey there. So I'll just say hi back. Let's change this to none. Okay, there we go. And this should all be functioning properly. Cool. So this is the project file. Now I'll be playing a little bit, and please let me know if the audio is okay.
Yeah. Got it.
So if that audio is okay, please let me know. Yeah. Oh, and I just realized that I'll probably get a copyright strike on this video, because this track is licensed for one video only, but I know that I can get the claim off the video, because this is just, the track is made for this video, but I can get that claim off this video. So I hope that the audio is okay. Okay, I could tell that you watch film right because of the weird circular effect on some of the footage. Weird circular effect. Oh, and the audio is good. Do you mean the vignetting on the sides here? I hope you can see the difference. Do you mean that? Because you're saying so I'm just asking which circular effect. It's probably the vignetting, but I'm not sure. So if you could let me know. Okay, so then I'll just start with the video. Now, I really wanted to work on my sound design, because the sound design on previous videos has not been good at all. And I wanted to make sure that this video had nice sound and rich, rich vibes to it. And I did that by creating the entire soundscape from scratch. So there's not a lot of dialogue in there. In the original script, we had this clip, this clip, and this one. And while filming, I actually missed 2 shots, or I actually had like this part and this part. The first edit was like this, so I missed these 2 gaps because I didn't film enough footage for that, apparently. So I filmed this on the second day because we had 2 shooting days. We had, okay, wait, Brick Films Effect guy says 149. Oh, I get what you're going for. This one. Yeah, so I was going for, so yeah, that's this one. I was going for this sort of dreamy vibe, so what I did is I added this radial blur. You can see it here. And I keyframed the center to move with the face of the actor, so that only the face is in focus and you have this radial blur. And there's of course a lot of color grading on this part to make it really blue. Yeah. Okay, so back to the soundscape. Yeah, so I started off with this track. The entire video is based off of this one track. That's where I started writing. That's where I started thinking of all of the ideas. And then I had this clip and this clip and this clip. Now, I really worked with layers this time. So the video is one layer, that's very simple, but you can see over here that I have lots of audio layers. I have this music layer, a dialogue layer, background noises, footsteps, fight sound effects, and fight grunts. So let's start with the dialogue. Now this was all recorded with the Zoom H1 and the Audio-Technica ATR 3350, I believe. And if we go over to this point, I just had the lavalier mic inside of the coat, and then I had the Zoom H1 in there as well. You can see it in the shot, which is great. So I took this audio, I touched it up a little bit inside of Audacity, and then just slapped it on there, and it looks great.
Yeah. Got it.
So it's actually this audio that was pasted on there. Then you have this phone call. Now that phone call was added in later because there was no dialogue there, and it didn't make much sense what was going on in that clip without any explanation. So that is why I added this phone call to the bad guy, which actually explains a little bit of the story. Now, don't get me wrong, the story's not the best, and I've received feedback on this short film, which I absolutely love. If you have feedback, please leave it under the video, because that just helps me create better stuff. If you have feedback, please post it. And that was also that the story was a little bit generic, which I agree on, and I want to get a little bit more into screenwriting and improving that part. So yeah, so we have some audio over here. This is also audio that was recorded in here. And also, if you want to hear the full sound design, you should check out my video, which is on the channel right now, which is the short film, but then without the music. So you can hear the dialogue and all of the sound design. And I actually think that it sounds pretty cool, even without the music, because you can hear all the little bits and bobs. I think that's pretty cool. So we have a busy city street for the intro. Then we have ocean waves for this section and this section. Then we have a car interior over here, which is this humming noise in the background, which fits nice.
You should have been here right now.
You can hear this noise, and if we turn this one off, you hear nothing. Which
Here right now.
sounds very boring. So I add in this hum, add in this music. Sounds pretty cool. Now over here we have the city street again. This is the city street as well, with birds on there. Car interior, and the waves. So yeah, that is about it. Then we also have footsteps. So I actually recorded these footsteps separately, added them into the video. You can see that these are all the footsteps. Then we have fighting sound effects. This is the entire bunch of the sound effects, and I got some feedback on this as well, because someone said, I don't know exactly who it is, that maybe the punches before the end should be a little bit less, and then the last punch should be, you know, a really big one. And I completely agree, and that's a really nice idea. So I'll be implementing that in the future. And this was really hard to pull off, because this entire take, or this entire fight scene, is one take. So there are some that don't really hit, and I try to cut away some portions so that it looks like it hits, but that didn't really work out. Oh, I got a new comment. That makes Filmer's Guide says, oh, that makes sense. It kind of reminded me of Film Riot video called Crazy Visuals with DIY Lens Filters. Oh, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. No, for this one, it's really just a radial blur added onto it. You could probably do this with a lens filter, this effect, but radial blur works just as nice. So let's start with the video, because this was all of the sound design. If you have any more questions on the sound design, leave it in the chat over here. Let's start with the intro. Now, I knew that because this thing is called intercept, I wanted to have this line that's intercepting the text. So I did that, and this is a 3D scene. So if I show you here, you can see that there's this camera. Here you have the line, actually, and the line is moving. Over here, you can see that the line's moving through the scene, but also the camera itself is moving to the side. So the text itself is stationary, but the line is moving a little bit faster than the camera, because at the end it moves out of frame, but the camera actually moves and not the text. So then if I remove this one again, we have this invert color grade, which is just inverting, and the displacement effect, which was keyframed to go from really little to a lot of displacement, which was used to make this text glitch. And this inverted intro actually came up while I was talking with one of the actors in the short film. He was a little bit early, so I showed him what I was working on, and he told me that he really liked the idea of this text inverting and ending up with black on white, and I really like that effect. So just added the invert effect on here, and then keyframed the opacity to fade in. And yeah, so we start off with black and white text, and then you end up with white background and black text, and then this displacement, and then it cuts away. Yeah, so that's this. And then also I wanted to have a little bit of distortion. For that, I used the Action Cam Lens Distort, and you can see that it basically, in the edges, it's still normal, but the center is a little bit more backwards. And what I did for that was use the Action Cam Lens Distort and invert it, because normally this effect is used to take away the fisheye effect from action cameras, but you can also reverse this effect and make more distortion, which is what I did. And then I set the scale anchor to width, which means that the sides will still be to the side. It's better to see if we go here and then I turn off the letterbox. You can see that it bulges inwards, and that's where the letterbox comes in handy, because that just masks all of that. But the sides are still over here, but the center itself moves, and you can see the effect over here. That's a little bit intense, so I just set it to 30, which looks nice, and that just gives a little bit of something new to it. Instead of this same old plain title, I wanted to add a little bit of distortion, which is what I did. Then you just have a black plane with a little bit of grain. Then you have the text, the line, inverted glitch, and then it goes away. Yeah. Then over here we have this clip. There was not much done to this clip. Well, wait. Let's just show what's happened. This is the original. I shot this on Cinelike D, which is a little bit of a flat color profile. There's still a lot of color in this one, but I shot it on Cinelike D, which is a little bit more flat. Now what I did to it first was add the curves effect to bring down the lightness a little bit, bring out the sky a bit more. Instead of this white sky, add a little bit of more blue. Then I add the crush blacks and whites effect. It's one of my favorite effects because it really adds this punch to the shot. Then I add the brightness and contrast, which adds contrast. Add the vignette. And then the hue, saturation, and lightness effect, which I use to desaturate certain colors. I desaturated the blue, for example, over here. If we go into here, there's a little bit of desaturation overall, but also in the blue, the cyan, and not in the green, actually. I believe there's one more. Is it magenta? No, this is the only thing. A little bit of desaturation in cyan and blue. which leaves us with this desaturated look in certain areas, because I received feedback on my previous short film, Energy, that the color grade didn't really fit the story. So that's what I worked on in this video, was to get a nicer color grade. So we get this desaturated look, still very sharp. I filmed this with my new camera, the Lumix G80 or G85, depends on in which area you live. And I'm impressed with the quality of this damn camera. It's really damn sharp. This was filmed in 1920 by 1080. I could have filmed it in 4K, but I don't have SD cards yet that support that, because you need really fast SD cards, and I don't have those yet. I'll probably buy them in the future. So this was just shot in 1920 by 1080. And still very, very crisp edges. Not a lot of noise, actually, because this was filmed outside. This was filmed on the second day, actually. We had the first day, which was inside of the warehouse and the greenhouse. And then the second day, which was a week later, were these shots outside. The original script I have over here actually calls for these shots to be filmed in the city center. But I thought that filming them in the nature over here, this is close to a dock for boats. I thought that it made a little bit more sense, because it's this this location where not many people are, and I thought it looked nice. And then we have this interception thing with the paper. So let's start. Over here, you can see that it has the shake effect. If you look over here, these shots, this sequence over here, was filmed on a tripod, and it's very stable. But I didn't really like it, so I added the shake effect, which I set to a really, really small amount, so that it doesn't look too weird. Yeah, and wait, I got a comment here saying, can you run through your color grading? Yes, I will. I will go through the color grading. I did that with the previous shot, and I will do that with the following shots as well. Sorry, I'm just opening up my blinds here. So that's the shake, and then I'll turn this all off. Here you can see the color grading, or the flat color profile. I added shake, curves, which helped a lot to bring out the sky a little bit more, which I'll talk about later, because there is some sky replacement involved in this shot. Then crush blacks and whites to get a little bit of this green back. Then brightness and contrast, which really helps to bring out the contours of, for example, this tree, this hangar, in the background, the plants. Then I added a vignette, and of course this desaturated look, which is the green, and I also believe, oh no, not cyan, only the green, and a little bit on the master one as well. So that desaturates the video a little bit. Now this is copied over to these two shots as well, because they're basically the same sequence. But let me run you through this shot, because there's sky replacement involved, which might not look like it, but there is. Dafter Things says, I think you have done a great job coloring on this short. Well, thank you. I like the coloring, actually. Now this shot was not exposed very well. As you can see, this is plain white. It's completely blown out, which sucks. I should have done a better job lighting. But what I did is I took this video clip, and I duplicated it. But then what I did was create a mask over here, but also at the luminance key, and I set it so that it keeps the non-white parts and slightly keys out the white parts. And what I can do then is add this this gradient of blue to white, and I add that under this video, which basically means that if you look over here, this is white. Now it's a little bit of blue that's being added into the video, and that helps off with this shot, because now it pops a little bit. But if we don't have that blue in the sky, it looks like a very bland shot. This shot was just normal. You don't see much of the sky, so I took that out. And then there's another effect in this shot. This shot has an effect in there, and I will show it to you. Can you find the effect in this shot? I'll just set this as the out point, turn off the music. Okay, so can you find the effect in this shot? Please let me know if you can find it. So that's the shot. If you have found an effect, great job, because it's really well hidden. I'm just waiting for someone to reply. If no one replies, I'll just reveal my secret. I don't think someone has found the answer, so I'll just reveal it. We cut from this shot to this shot, and this is supposed to be the same shot but a little bit later. So you see the paper, it's still not the best because his hand moves a little bit, so that's a little bit of an issue. But more importantly, if we go in here, turn this thing off, you can see that if we move... Okay, so Brick Filmer's effects guide says I can't find it. If we move from this shot, look at this. There's nothing. There's grass. If we go over here, there is a person walking her dog. She wasn't there in the previous shot, so that would be a gigantic blunder if you can suddenly see this person appear. Because here from this shot, nothing. Next shot, she's there. And I thought, how am I going to mask that out? Well, what I did is I added the clone stamp effect. I have this mat over here. If we move over here, you can see that there's this mat. So it basically takes the video from this portion and it copies it over this portion by using the clone stamp effect. If you look over here, you can see that the woman is being removed from the shot. And you can see that this portion and this portion has the exact same movement in it. So to hide that, I keyframed this shot to go from completely hiding it to fading out slowly to the original clip, which means that this woman was hidden out of the shot by using the clone stamp effect, which I think is a really cool usage of this effect. So you can see that this was absolutely a lifesaver from having this shot here and then the next one where the woman was walking her dog, because that's not something that you want. Then next up, we have this one. This is a pretty generic shot. It's the person talking. We have the audio of the phone. We have this background noise of the factory. Let's go over here to the color grade. So we start off with the hue, saturation, and lightness, and you can see that it takes out a lot of the color. So what I went for the looks was a really punchy, a really contrasty video, but without a lot of saturation. So what I did here is take out the saturation, but add in those punchy highlights and shadows by using the crush blacks and whites. Brightness, contrast, and the vignette effect. Of course, I have that in all of these shots, a very slight vignette. And also, if you look here, it's stationary, but if I add the shake effect, the effect moves around a little bit. So Dafter Thing says, very clever. Could you have used a mask and then scaled the same area instead of the clone? I don't really know what you're asking here. What do you mean? Because I would love to answer your question, but I'm not really sure what you're asking. So yeah, that's this color grade. You can see that it's this dark. This would be the original grade, but that's really punchy. So I remove that, and you have this desaturated but still very contrasted look. Then over here we go to the shot outside. This is a shot of the bad guy, and he walks into the building. Now there are two visual effects hidden in this shot. So you go here, he walks in, looks around, and then walks out. So again, it actually has 2 door sounds that I recorded recorded separately. So at the end of our shoot, I recorded some Foley sounds, which I used over here. So we have the footsteps, we have the door opening and closing, and then the city street sound. Oh wait, I got a response. In the previous shot, could you have duplicated the shot, masked out the dog lady, and then scaled that area up to match the second shot? Nothing wrong with the clone though. I guess that you could have used that, but the natural thing for me was just to use the clone stamp tool. I thought that that worked pretty nice, but what you're saying, like masking out a shot and then, or masking out a part and then moving it over, it would work as well. Yeah, I guess that would work. Okay, so let's go over this shot, because there are 2 visual effects hidden in plain sight. And those are my favorite visual effects, the ones that you actually can't see. If I go over here and remove or disable these 2 shots. Oh, first of all, here you can see that the color grade works really well. If we go over here, look at the reflection in this window. Hey, that's me. That's my new camera. You can see me in the reflection over here, which is not something that I would want. And also when the door closes, you can see the car and me filming, because I'm filming directly at that door. So you can see my reflection. I didn't catch it at first, but if we go over here, just this part here, you can very clearly see me in that reflection. So I was like, I have to take that out. So what I did is I copied the frame that, wait, let me show you. I copied the frame that was before the reflection, and then I took that frame. Wait, let's turn these ones on again. So this is the reflection, and it moves, but I took the frame before the reflection and a frame after it, and I basically faded the first one into the second one, and it also moves with the position. Same thing here. So if we go over here, you can see that if you look for it, you can actually see it in the video, because the reflection stops for a little bit and then suddenly changes. So this was used to hide the reflection, and because this is so fast, you cannot really see it. It's right over there. You can see that it's sort of like stopping, but it moves so fast and you don't notice it, that you don't see it that much. So that was used to mask out my reflection. Let's go over to the color grade. There's no shake applied because this was filmed handheld. By the way, the stabilization of my camera and lens combined works great, because this is filmed handheld, but it looks perfectly fine. You can see him here, and then look at this reflection. Yeah, that masked me out. Let's go over the color grade. So you can see that this is a very bland shot. If we go over here, I started off with curves to get the lightness a little bit down, because I didn't really like it. Crushed blacks and whites to get this punchy contrast, a little bit more contrast at the vignette, and then the desaturated look, which actually desaturates the green over here, the green of that part, and the cyan and blue of the actor's coat. So you still keep the skin tones, which is something that's really important. You want to keep your skin tones correct. So what I did is I added the desaturated look to the green, cyan, and blue channels, which makes sure that the skin tone stays practically the same. And that turns out really well. Then over here we have this shot, which doesn't, well, it has quite some effects on there. So let's start. Oh wait, this is a composite shot because I first wanted to do something else with this, so I added the radial blur inside of a composite shot. Long story. So you have this shot, and it's this really nice shot actually. I really like it just the way it is. but I made a composite shot. You don't have to do that. Actually, let me just take this radial blur and add it onto here. Wait, I'm not able to do that. That is pretty weird. Control C, wait, copy and paste. Paste? Oh, I can't paste that. That's dumb. The angle is 4, radial blur. Add it on here. 4. Yeah, cool. So, by the way, if you have any more questions about how I edit this thing, please leave them in the chat. So let's start with the shake. Again, most of these shots were filmed on a tripod, as you can see here, but I added the shake effect. So Daphne thinks I didn't understand the reason for the radial blur in this shot. Now, this is a sort of look into the past. So this one is before the entire fight scene. Same with this one. It's also before the fight scene. So I took this color grade, this blue and blurry color grade for the past shots. But if that wasn't very clear, that's probably my fault. I tried to do something fun with this, something new, but I guess that didn't really work out. Then here you can see that there's a little bit of shake. If we go over here, you can see that that pole is shaking. Then I add the vignette, the hue, saturation, and lightness, which takes out some of the saturation of this green and blue area. The color phase effect, which I use to increase the blue phase, which basically shifts the blue channel a little bit. Then I also add the brightness and contrast effect to get a little bit more contrast. And then also the hue colorize, which I set to blue, which colorizes this shot a little bit more. And then the radial blur effect to create this dreamy look. Then we go to the fight scene, which is this. It's the first shot, which is just walking, and I have this color grade on there. This is, by the way, a beautiful location, and I was very lucky to be able to film there. So, shout out to Marcel for letting me film at this location. Start off with crushed blacks and whites, brightness and contrast effect to add a lot more brightness or a lot more contrast. The vignette and the desaturated look. Then that is basically the same in this shot as well. Now, go over here, you can see that this shot was originally a lot lighter than this shot. If you look at the floor, and then over here, you can see that this was way lighter. So I definitely needed to color grade this. I used the crush blacks and whites effect, which does, it works a little bit, for example, in these plant areas. Then the brightness and contrast effect was used to pull down the brightness a bunch. Then I added the vignette and the, and the hue, saturation, and lightness effect to desaturate everything. And then right on the punches, I removed a frame, which makes the impact seem a little bit faster. And indeed, the punches didn't really hit. I could have probably done a little bit of a better job on that one. Have that kick, and right on the kick, we cut over to the Guardian. And what I did here is I copied over some of the fighting sounds over to this shot, so it looked like the fighting was still going on, and then boom, cut to black right at the punch. So that is that part. Then we have this.
Well, the location leads right to us.
There's this phone call which was made in the past to this guy. So this one is at the same time frame as this one. So there's a little bit of inconsistency. We have this, then this one, then this one, this one, this is in the past, this is in the present, and this one's also in the past. So this has the same effects as what I've showed you before. So this was done in sorry. I have something in my throat for some reason. So this was shot on the continuous autofocus on my camera, which has done a pretty good job. I shot several takes in this one, and this was the best one. Again, he has a microphone inside of his jacket, so the audio was actually recorded live. So you just see him walking over here. It's very basic, and then I added curves because need a little bit of curves. Curves, blacks and whites, brightness and contrast, vignette, hue, saturation, lightness, the color phase, the hue, colorize, and the radial blur. As you can see, brightness, the difference of this brightness and contrast, it really helped in this shot. Then with the last one, this was also done with autofocus, or yeah, it was autofocus. I wanted to pull focus on this shot manually, but it didn't really work out. So it's just my camera panning up, and the camera automatically pulls
Shot's complete.
focus on here. So then we have here, this is the shot. For here, it's a little dull because, you know, the color grading is not perfect out of camera. Curves, blacks and whites, brightness and contrast, vignette, and the hue, saturation, and lightness effect to desaturate it. So you can see that that is pretty neat. And then, actually, I ended this shot early. I just clicked the off button, and that moved the camera down. But it was actually exactly on the beat of the music. If I turn this on. So I could just use this in the edit to move the camera down exactly at that beat, which was super cool. And then we're at the last part, which is the credits. I created these credits in Photoshop, or the text for the credits, and I just imported that. So you have the plane, then these credits that are just moving over the screen. And then what I use for this is, again, the action cam lens distort and like 1 degree of radial blur. You can see that over here. The radial blur adds a nice touch. In the center, it's very clean, but then the edges get blurred a little bit, which draws your attention to the center of the screen, which is what we want. And then the action cam lens distort to get this little bit distorted look. And then if we go over here, you can see that that looks really, really neat. And I think that that is it for the entire edit. So I'll just wait a little bit and ask if there are questions. And if there are questions, please leave them, because otherwise I think that I am going to stop the live stream, because I think that I covered all of the things that I wanted to cover. But if there are questions, then of course be sure to leave them. I'm just going to drink a little bit of water now, because you need to stay hydrated. So if there are no questions, then I'm just going to shut down the live stream, I guess. So we covered the sound design, the color grading, some of the invisible visual effects, such as this sky replacement, this replacement of the woman, the reflection replacement, this effect. I think we covered everything. So I'm just going to ask if there are more questions. And After Things is a really good job and impressive short all around. Thank you. By the way, what I'll probably do is go over to the comments under my short film, under INTERCEPT, and and look at them for a little bit. Yes, so here we are. Papa says, wow, this is amazing. The story grips you and has you asking questions the whole time. The music and background gave that eerie feeling that something bad was going to happen, and then bam, fight scene. Really well acted out in camera angles. The facial expression at the end was brilliant. Thank you very much. And then, was actually Dafter Things, says, excellent production, camera work, lighting, music, sound, and acting. The fight scene had good impact, but you might want to reduce the number of big punches. Quick, short, sharp punches followed by big finish. That was what I was talking about earlier. That's definitely true. That could probably be done better. Then Small Town Cinema says, this was pretty good. I thought that the cinematography was on point. Thank you very much. However, the story was a bit generic and could use some more exciting elements, as could the short fight scene. Very true. Writing is not my best skill, and I would love to go more into that, explore some new stuff. Specifically, the impacts in the fight scene didn't hold too much weight for me. The random blocks of black between the scenes kind of cut down on the energy and felt out of place. Yeah, that's true. I really wanted to edit on the beats of the music because I thought that felt better, more natural. Then I was left with these black blocks, and I could probably get rid of them some way. Definitely true. The acting and the writing, for the most part, were nice and natural. Overall, I thought that this was a pretty solid short film. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. Now, this is some constructive criticism that I can really work with. Show some good points, the bad points in there that I need to improve. So this kind of stuff, really, really useful. Then Brick Filmers Effects Guide says, really nice job. Tony Wilmore says, definitely your best film so far. Yeah, that's true. I like the way that this one turned out. Excellent camera work and direction. Good performance from the actors. Good pace, mood, and music. Intriguing story. The only area where you want to... the only area where there might be room for improvement is the fist fight. The blows did not seem to be 100% convincing, for me at least. Overall, though, excellent, very impressive. Thank you very much. And again, the fight scene is something that I'm not very comfortable with creating because I don't do it very often, actually. So yeah, it was something very new to me, and because we did everything in one take, it's very hard to get those punches to seem convincing. So that's something that I could do better in the future. And then Papa says again, if you need a scene from the UK seaside town for your next movie, give me a shout. I will do so if I need it. Thank you very much. So those are some of the replies. 64 views in the first 24 hours. I think that is pretty neat. I like that. That's good. And that is probably it for this live stream. I got a new comment. I still don't fully understand how you decide on color grading unless it is by eye. What do you mean Whoa, I can't type exactly. I'm just going to ask that because I don't really know what he is going for. Because of course I go for it by eye. Well, yeah, of course I do this stuff by eye, but I try to match the shots with color, and then I do what looks nice. I guess that's the answer for your question. He says, I guess you saw Film Right on fight scenes. I think they've done 2 or 3 in the last year or so. Well, I haven't actively decided to do a fight scene because I saw them on Film Right. Of course, I do watch a lot of Film Right, so it could have subconsciously influenced my ideas. Because everything in a film is probably done in the past and is a collection of other things that you've seen. The after things is there a process to color grading, or do you do it until it looks right? That's a question that makes sense. What I start off first most of the times is correcting for my camera, because I shoot in a very flat color profile, so that means that there's a little bit more dynamic range, but that also means that I need to color grade a little bit more. So for example, if we take this shot, turn this down, you can see that this is a pretty flat image. Then I start with getting the contrast and lightness right. So I add the curves effect, curves, blacks and whites, and then the brightness and contrast effect. And this gets the contrast and lighting the way I want it. And then I can start with grading it. Now, if I have a very specific grade, like this shot, for example, I can add that now. Or if I just add the vignette, and then also the hue, saturation, and lightness. So basically, the first three effects are for correcting the camera so that it looks decent, and then I add the actual grade itself on here. Probably a better example is this shot over here. So let me order these shots. Vignette, hue, saturation, lightness, color, phase, hue, colorize. Yeah, this is probably the most accurate order. So start with the brightness and contrast to get that right. Then I add the vignette, add the desaturation to it. Then I can add the color, phase, and hue, colorize, which makes sure that the scene looks very blue. Add a radial blur and add the shake effect. So I start with getting the contrast and lighting right, or lighting, sorry, not lightning. And then I add the color to it. That's a very good question. Thank you for that. It gives me something to explain. And I guess that's it. Thank you for your question. It's really hard to type something on one keyboard and then look at another screen. I can sort of blind type, but that's just with one screen in front of me. But if there are two screens, that's a little bit intense. The after thing says, I would look at the first shot and think that looks good, but then I see the improvement you make to it and I think, okay, maybe it wasn't so good to begin with. Oh, yeah, I get that feeling. That's just something that you need to get used to just trying out new stuff. Because if you look over here, this shot could work. It could work. But I really want to, that's what I do with my normal videos as well. I start off with curves, color, crushed blacks and whites, and brightness and contrast. Those are the normal things that I do for my camera. But then because I'm working on a short film and I want to get this cinematic feel, I also add a little bit of vignette and then the color grade to it. So it's really just probably trying out new stuff and seeing what you can add to your scene. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Are there any more questions? So we're closing in on 50 minutes, which I guess is a nice time for a stream. And by the way, this is my 31st live stream. That's a lot of live streams I've done in my time. It's pretty cool to realize that I've come from like pretty far. I've hit 550 subscribers now and also 50,000 views. That's insane. I mean, that's really cool, and I want to thank you guys for that. I have 194 videos posted on my channel. That's a bunch. The after thing says no more questions, but you have a very long delay on the stream, 2 minutes maybe. Yeah, that's possible. I have like there's a little bit of latency to the stream, which I believe has something to do with OBS, because Yeah, I don't know, but there's quite some delay on there, which I'm very sorry for. So my first ever video of Film Empire was October 8, 2016. So if we go over here, that would be not next week, but the week after that, on Monday. That would be my 2-year anniversary of Film Empire. Gosh, that's really cool. That's really darn cool. Let me see, which video will that be? Ooh. So it's kind of it kind of sucks that like the 100th video means, or the 100th episodes means 104 weeks, because there are 52 weeks in a year. So my 100th video will not be on the 2-year anniversary, but 2 weeks later. So on the date that my channel will exist for 2 years, I will upload my first impressions of the Lumix G80 or G85, depending on where you live. Yeah, I think that's a nice video as my 2-year celebration. It shows how far I've come, because I started off. Wait, let me get this. Let's get this one, and then I'm just getting some pictures here. So I started off, the very first episode was with this camera over here, the Samsung WB200F, and then the second episode was when I got my new Panasonic HCV180, which was a big upgrade at the time. And then now I have my new camera, which is the Lumix G80. So that really shows what a big step of equipment I've got. That's really cool, looking back at this kind of stuff. Yeah, that's cool. So Dafter thinks there's no more questions, but you have a very long delay. Oh wait. So Dafter thinks says, I'm sure your sub count has gone up quite a bit this year in particular. That's very true. I've grown a lot this year. I'm not sure if I can see how much I've grown this year, because I can see the amount of subscribers. Wait, I think that my analytics will somehow show it. If I go to my channel analytics and go to subscribers, I'm probably able to see the subscriber count for this year. Yeah, subscribers. Set this to this year, 2018. So my analytics says 176 subscribers. So if I go for here, 559 minus, what did it say? 176, huh? So I started this year with 383 subscribers, and I'm now at 559. That's pretty insane. I've 176 subscribers. That's so cool. Just to think that there are 560 people subscribed to this channel. That's so cool. Can you imagine like having 590 people or 560 people in a room? It's hard to imagine. It's pretty darn cool. Hey, but I think that this is about it for the live stream. So yeah. Are there any more questions? Otherwise, I'm going to shut down the stream. Questions? So let's post that in the chat. Cool, I've had a great time. I think this is a really cool stream. We had some good conversations, some really interesting questions from Dafter Things, other people. It's really cool. So that means that I probably should shut down the stream. I want to thank you guys ever so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time with a new video. Bye-bye.